54 years ago, the Apollo 13 crew set a record for the farthest humans have ever traveled from Earth. On Monday, April 6, 2026, 4 astronauts aboard the Orion spacecraft will shatter that record. To get there, they first have to execute a flawless setup. Flight Day 5 on the Artemis II mission revolves around survival gear, pinpoint navigation, and preparing for an unprecedented view of the lunar surface. Welcome to the Curiosity Well podcast. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down Flight Day 5 of the Artemis II mission. The date is Sunday, April 5th, 2026. Today marks the final operation phase before the historic lunar flyby. We're looking into the exact events of the day, from the crucial spacesuit pressure test to the precise engine burns required to thread the needle around the moon. The crew began Flight Day 5 at 11:50 a.m. At this point in the mission, the Orion spacecraft was deep into the cislunar void, having coasted for days since their launch. Their primary objective for Sunday was ensuring that all backup systems, safety protocols, and trajectory calculations were flawless before entering the lunar sphere of influence. The lunar sphere of influence is the specific boundary where the moon's gravitational pull becomes the dominant force acting on the spacecraft, superseding the gravitational pull of the Earth. Crossing that threshold means the orbital mechanics completely change, requiring absolute precision from the spacecraft's navigation system. At 2:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the astronauts began a critical test objective, evaluating the Orion Crew Survival System, the OCSS. These are the bright orange pressure suits the crew wears during dynamic phases of the flight, such as launch and re-entry. They function as customized, self-containing life support systems. If Orion was to suffer a catastrophic depressurization event, these suits are designed to keep the crew alive for up to 6 days, enough time to return to Earth from the moon. The evaluation required the 4 crew members to take on the suits inside the limited volume of the Orion capsule. They fully pressurized the suits and conducted rigorous leak checks. Operating inside the pressurized suit is physically demanding, and internal pressure makes the fabric completely rigid. Bending an elbow or a knee requires the astronaut to actively fight against the volume of gas holding the suit stiff. During this test, the crew had to simulate getting into their seats and buckling in under these fully pressurized conditions to assess their mobility. They confirmed that the suit joints allowed enough dexterity to reach the flight controls, and that the life support umbilicals connected perfectly to these spacecraft systems. Proving that these suits work in deep space is a massive milestone for future longer duration Artemis missions. While the crew wrestled with pressurized suits in the vacuum of space, the ground team of Houston was preparing for a heavy science phase of the mission. During a NASA mission status briefing at 3:30 p.m., the mood at the Johnson Space Center was electric. Artemis II lunar science lead Kelsey Young outlined the massive workload awaiting the crew on Monday. The astronauts have 10 distinct science objectives and 35 specific geological targets to observe during their upcoming 7-hour flyby window. They will operate in shifts to maximize their data collection. They will photograph and document specific craters, ancient volcanic plains, known as Maria, and the areas of the lunar far side that have not been observed by human eyes in over half a century. The crew spend their evening reviewing these 35 targets, transitioning their operational mindset from testing the spacecraft hardware to conducting deep space scientific observations. As the day progressed into the late evening, attention shifted entirely to navigation. At 11:03 p.m., the European Service Module, which provides the power and propulsion for Orion, executed Outbound Trajectory Correction burn. Navigating to the moon requires constant granular refinement. The gravitational forces of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun continuously pull on the spacecraft, slightly altering its path. The initial translunar objection burn on day 1 provided the massive thrust needed to break away from low Earth orbit, but minor adjustments are required along the way to maintain a perfect trajectory. At 11:03 p.m. the maneuver was short, highly precise firing of the service module's auxiliary thrusters. This correction refined Orion's path, ensuring it hits a very specific window in space. Without this refinement, Orion could drift off course by thousands of miles. The successful burn locked them onto the exact trajectory needed to cross the lunar sphere of influence, a milestone scheduled for 12:41 a.m. EDT on Monday, April 6th. Flight Day 5 officially wraps up the outbound transit phase of the Artemis II mission. The survival suits are verified, the 35 science targets are locked in, and the trajectory is perfect. The crew is now coasting towards their closest approach to the lunar surface. As we look towards tomorrow's flyby, consider the fact that the human eye will once again look upon the far side of the moon, gathering visual data that will dictate where humanity lands next. Until then, keep looking up and stay curious. Thanks for listening.